Hello, this is Dr. Christy Patton-Lukes, a chemical engineering professor at Missouri S&T. In this lesson for Chemical Engineering 4096, our Engineering Economics class for chemical engineers, we're going to be looking at cash flows for a new plant. This comes from Chapter 10 out of the Turton textbook, and the title of the chapter is Profitability Analysis. Now, in order to do this profitability analysis, we end up using a lot of shortcuts for notation. And this page here is just simply reference so that when later you're looking at something going, wait, I don't remember what NPW means or whatever, you can come back to this page and look it up as necessary. So the idea is we're going to start with a new project. We've designed a chemical plant, and we want to build it. Now, you may not have every one of these steps exactly, but kind of the general flow of our capital or cash is that we begin by purchasing some land. And then we'll take a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years to build this plant that we've designed. You are not making any money during this time. You're simply spending money. Once the plant is completed, then you're going to be ready to start up the plant. But in order to do that, you need to have some working capital. This means you have to have cash on hand so that you can pay your employees for the first year. You can buy raw materials. You can operate a waste treatment facility if necessary. You can use electricity. All of the expenses that are going to go into our cost of manufacturing. You need to have that first year's capital on hand. Now you have this money, you start operations. You're going to begin producing product and revenue. Usually the first year your profit is a little bit on the lower side, but then that picks up very quickly and you've hit sort of a steady state of revenue. But you have to pay taxes. The first few years, maybe 5 years, that's most of what we've been doing for the sake of this course, you're going to be able to depreciate that capital investment. And it's going to save you on tax dollars, which is going to increase your profit. But then in the later years, you're not going to be able to take depreciation anymore. And so we'll see that we're going to have a change in the slope of our cumulative cash flow diagram. But it's simply because we're no longer getting to deduct that depreciation. And then finally, after a number of years, when we're ready to pretend that we're going to just close out the process. So we're going to stop everything. We're going to no longer need that working capital. So all that money I've had, I can now take that cash back. I can sell my land and I can salvage all of the equipment. Now we're going to do this for a fixed number of years. It might be 10 years, it might be 20 years. It's not going to necessarily, it's probably not at all going to match the reality of how long you will operate this plant. But it's enough to prove the viability of the operations and the economics. Now, different companies will have different standards for how long they wish to look at this, okay? Usually they use a much shorter number than what you would probably expect. 10 or 15 years is somewhat typical for this. But we're going to do this profitability analysis over the complete life of the project as based on what we want to be able to guarantee profit before the end of. So if we looked at a cash flow diagram, here's my timeline here, and the first thing we do is purchase our land. And then we just keep spending money as we do our fixed capital investment. This is our construction period. So for a period of time, I just continue to spend money. Then I'm ready to start the plant. So I need my working capital on hand so that I can begin operations. So I'm going to start up the plant, and for a period of time, I'm going to be able to depreciate this fixed capital investment, which will help me recover some of this money on taxes. The first year is probably going to have more gentle slope than the rest of this depreciation period. And then once the depreciation period ends, I'm going to see a slope change again until finally the end of the project, at which point I'm going to be able to recover the land value, I'm going to be able to recover the working capital, and I may be able to recover some salvage value. And so we end up, without any discounting, that this number up here is the cumulative cash flow.